Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Methodz responds to Nadeshot's claim that Cellium was just playing for kills and his numbers aren't actually too impactful, but also Clayster giving some opinion on when he might decide to step away from Call of Duty, saying it could be at the end of next season, but he still wants to compete for the time being if the opportunity arises. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into today. Firstly, this is a pretty wild story actually. You guys might know probably a month or so ago now, the UK CMA, the Competition and Markets Authority maybe is what it stands for, declined to approve the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Now, there was a lot of drama at the time, and the Activision guys came out and said, oh, no, there's no way, and Microsoft said, this is outrageous, all this other stuff. So, apparently, they're now meeting with the UK Chancellor and the CMA next week to say, hey, you should approve this. But apparently, they're also going to say, what if we just ignore this block and close the deal anyway, because it's pretty much only the UK that's saying no right now. So if they were to just ignore it and approve it anyway, they might have to withdraw Activision from the UK. Now, this sounds to me like a bit of a bargaining chip, right? They're going to come to the UK CMA and say, hey, look, if you don't approve this, we're just going to leave, and you get no Call of Duty. And the guy will be like, oh, damn, my son loves Call of Duty, so I guess I've got to hit the approve button, right? So I don't know, right, what exactly their plan is here, but it feels like a little bit of a kind of bargaining chip attempt. I don't expect them to actually do this, as in say, you know what, no more COD in the UK, no more anything in the UK. But I wouldn't necessarily put it past them, just because I don't know if you guys know about the Activision Blizzard Overwatch thing, but they had some disagreement with China, and China wasn't happy with the way that they were doing things, and they decided to choose a new partner, and Activision said, all right, whatever. And that means that I don't believe Overwatch is playable in China anymore, which what it means for them is that they've got a Chinese league, or they've got loads of Chinese teams in their Overwatch league that literally can't even play the game. So those teams are screwed, they can't even play, that league is broken into shambles, and it was all of Activision's own doing effectively, and that's their own league. So would you put it past them to do this and say, oh, London, oh, you guys can't play COD anymore? That's unfortunate, isn't it? Well, I guess we've got to move that London franchise to, I don't know, Chicago again or something, right? So hopefully that doesn't happen, and hopefully we still get to play the games in the UK. But it's a very interesting storyline, right? But it feels like they're very much committed to getting this done. Kind of whatever it takes, right? Hashtag whatever it takes, word to OpTic iLLeY, or maybe former OpTic iLLeY, we don't really know right now. Speaking of OpTic, they of course have been killing it, as always, in the hours watched by streams. So here we go with the numbers that Jacob L points out. These are the top streamers in terms of watch time for the month. By far and away, it's Scump and the Call of Duty count itself right up top here. Zuma slightly behind, but clear number 3. Then Shotzzy. Then this guy, Master East. I don't know what he streams. Maybe he's a ranked grinder. I'm not sure, but this guy has been grinding, bro. Almost 500 hours in a month. Like, I don't know what that is per day. It's got to be like 50. This guy must be going to sleep, getting up and streaming like all day. Like, what, 15 hours a day or something? What, 15 times 30? Jeez, it might even be more than that. That's rough. Yeah, I guess it's more like 16 hours a day. That is, I don't know about that one, but still, impressive stuff. Fair play. I guess you got to grind to make it where you want to make it to. And yeah, we got Haggy here, Methodz, Dashy, Ghosty, and so you know how it goes, right? You join OpTic, this is what happens. Ben JoeDeceives as well. It's nice to see. Doug sent to Martin. Slacked as well. I've got to give credit to Slacked, man, because I don't think many people would have said when he retired that he was going to be a big content creator in the Call of Duty space, but that's exactly what he's become. So really impressive stuff anyway. There's your top 15 or so from the last month. There was also this that I missed yesterday, I believe, from TJ Halley, discussing the format we currently have in the CDL for Champs and changing it to a play-in style format. This is now, like, as TJ says, I'm not saying this because we didn't make it, I'm just saying this because it's actually way better. There's a big debate to be had on this. I found out, you know, this is one of the ways that they have at least done some of the play-ins in the MA before. The idea, I suppose, would be that instead of just having 8 teams go to Champs and 9 through 12 don't, you instead say 6 teams are guaranteed to Champs, and then 8, 9, well, basically 7, 8, 9, 10, right? They have a play-in to qualify as the final 2 seeds. This I quite like. I will say, to a certain extent, that I like the jeopardy of having it as it is, right? Going into the final event, we can fix the point system and stuff, making online less relevant, which I believe we should do. But going into the final event, there's always going to be a couple of teams that could still potentially make it if they had an absolute worldie, which was pretty much the case here. At least with Vegas, right? And they were discussing this on the flank because many, I'm sure, would like to see this. I'm actually more on aX's side of the equation that says, look, if you suck at the start of the year, you've got to make changes quick, because if you don't try and improve quickly, you are going to lack points for the entire season and not make it to champs, even if you are, because I think Vegas are a top 8 team at the end of the year. Probably only just, but are they better than Surge? Are they better than, you know, Boston? I think they probably are. Like, as it stands with current levels of performance, I think Vegas should and deserve to be at champs, certainly over Surge. But they took too long with the Pro League roster, with the 2-Real roster, and they suffered the consequences. And I don't mind that being the case. And I also don't like having terrible teams at champs, right? I still think that 8 teams at champs is the way to go, because it just straight up makes the format better. You don't have the team starting and losers and all this stuff. And I don't have to watch LA Guerrillas. I don't have to watch London Royal Ravens. I don't have to watch the Florida Mutineers. They're actually alright at the moment. So I don't want to watch those crap teams at champs, is basically the way it comes down to. But doing a play-in for the, you know, the 8th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th team, which are actually still pretty decent, to get into champs, I'd be down for that. So maybe you could do this like right after the event concludes or something. I don't know, make them stay around for another day, run it Monday. Be a bit weird, but could be done. I think it does merit some further discussion. Wanted to dive into Methodz' response here to Nadeshot effectively calling out Cellium. Nadeshot admitted he didn't really watch the finals, but he carried over this opinion, and I can understand why, that if Cellium's dropping a 1.2, 1.3 and he's losing all these finals, something must be going wrong. I think last year and even the start of this year, there was definitely a good argument to say yes. I would say that Cellium is probably a player that's his impact is less than it's expected to be based on his KD, if you know what I mean. But not to say he's not impactful, and not to say that his kills don't matter. I feel like at times that, you know, he's less impactful than his KD would typically suggest. Doesn't mean that he's not impactful, though, because he's still drawing great numbers. But last season, especially, there were so many times last year where Cellium would just be sitting somewhere, nowhere near the action, baiting his team. And, look, maybe that's how they wanted him to play. I think even Standy said this year that sometimes you see Cellium and you think, all right, let's just go the other way and go 3v4 against the rest of his team, or 4v3 against the rest of his team. So, but it does feel like to me they fixed it this year. Over the last couple of months, their hardpoint was great at the major. If they can keep that going, then I think they'll be in a good spot. And it was the search and destroy that lost them the final. So, look, I actually agree with Methodz in this instance, and this is what he has to say.
Because I know
that I mean, I don't agree with him. I think if they're getting swept, like 4-0'd, like, that's a different story. I mean, it's one thing if he's dropping 1.3s and they're getting dominated. We're talking about a very, very, very close series that honestly came down to search and destroy. I mean, the Respawn's FaZe still looked lights out, and that's where the KD is going to get inflated is Respawn. And obviously Cell is unreal at search too, but FaZe was lights out in Respawn all weekend long, so that's just going to inflate his KD, because not only are they winning respawns, but he's also frying. And then, I mean, that grand final comes down to S&Ds. I mean, if FaZe don't bottle that 5-2 lead, they're up 3-2, and they win the series 4-2. And yeah, I mean, he mentioned Priesta, and Priesta had like, that's the thing with KD is one crazy map in either direction could sway a KD, right? Like Priesta going 3-19, for example. Like that is going to skew his KD negatively by a good margin. I mean, going -16 in one map and only getting 3 kills, like that is going to really KD. So he could have been playing great for the rest of the series, but that one map is going to inflate the KD in either direction. And just like one really good respawn, right? Like, let's say Cellium goes 35-10 on a map and they have a lights out hardpoint. Like that is going to inflate his KD overall. So it's very tough to look at the numbers.
I will say on Methodz, though, that while in this specific case, I believe that he makes a good point on Cellium, like, Methodz defends everyone, regardless of the circumstance. There's always a clip coming out of Zinni defending somebody if they're involved in some sort of drama, so just, I guess, take that as you will. Also wanted to mention, though, Clayster and his future in the league, if this wants to load. Thought this was kind of cool as well. So he's playing this new Diablo 4 game, and after he dies for the first time, he's playing on, like, hardcore mode or something, and he does the Crimsix, like, handshake, which I thought was kind of funny, to be honest, just as he tries to regain to go again. But Clayster's been discussing, is he going to come back? What's his plans going to be? He actually mentioned on stream that, look, Scump got this nice retirement video before he, well, even before he retired, there was something made, because his plan was, he announced he was going to retire at the end of the year, and whether Clay would say something similar and would come back for another year and say, hey, you know what, this is going to be my last season. But in that case, he'd want to have something nice made for him, right, as OpTic did. But it's not like Vegas Legion as an organization are going to have the resources to do that. So, you know, that's a question that he's probably having. But also, I asked him at the event, many others asked him after he was out of the event, like, look, Clay, you come back next year, what's the plan? And Clay's opinion was pretty much unanimous to those that he talked to be like, hey, I want to be around next year, that's the plan, whether that's as a player, whether that's as a coach. But I think he makes it quite clear in this clip that was captured at the event that he still wants to play.
Do a retirement video like Scump before going into your final year. That'd be fire. Who's making me a retirement video, bro? Scump's got a whole production team. Been on OpTic his whole life. Bro, who the bro, you want to make me a video, bro? Make me a video, bro. Who the making me a video, dude? Think Seth made that video?
I want to play, so we'll see. I want to play, so we'll see.
So Clay still wants to play. Will he get given the opportunity, right? He's been definitely up and down statistically this year. What he's done for Vegas cannot be understated, I think, in terms of making them a contender, making them an exciting team to watch. And yes, his numbers might not always have been great, but he's had his good maps, he's had his bad maps, and it's not necessary for Clay to drop crazy numbers with what he can bring to a team if you've got the right guys around him, as we have seen over the past few years. This year, though, not the craziest talented team around him for a lot of the year. Their team at the end was pretty good, and look, they didn't make champs. That was unfortunate. He's in Vegas. Would have been nice to see them there. Didn't happen though. And Clay, we now have to wonder whether he will return again. Will Vegas bring him back? He's probably on a 1+1. They could bring him back if he wanted. Does he want another year on Vegas though? Let's be honest, right? Because you've got the no facility situation at Vegas. Not like he's getting paid a crazy salary. So I think in an ideal world, he'd probably go elsewhere. Now, would Boston be a good team? I think yes. Would Surge maybe even be a good team? Maybe yes. If Accuracy was to step into a coaching role at some point, which I feel like is inevitable for his career at some point over the next couple of years, that might be an option. I know we talked about FaZe. I'm not sure I see that personally because, you know, at least with Slashy, you feel like he's got a good few more years left. Whereas Clayster, I think next year, if he does come back, might well be his final year. I'd love to see him compete for ages, but I don't expect that to happen. I feel like Slasher's probably got more years in the tank remaining, and maybe FaZe will go down a different route. But I think Clay can improve certain teams in this league right now, and would be a good asset, but whether, you know, that actually is the best option for him, because what if an organization comes along and says, hey Clay, do you want to coach for our team? And Clay's like, well look, I'd actually probably getting paid more money to do that than I would be to play. Maybe it's time to call it a day. I don't know, but Clay wants to compete. If the opportunity arises, he probably will, but he's gonna have to weigh up a few different things, right? Because maybe a GM role comes in, maybe a coaching role comes in with various teams, and Clay really has to think, you know what, do I really want to do one more year of this? The stresses, the trials, the tribulations, and it's obviously taken a toll on him individually. He made that very clear that he had a tough year for himself personally, and the Call of Duty was a bit of an escape, but didn't exactly help him. So, you know, I think it's a big question. I'd love to see Clay come back, of course. Legend of the scene. The longer he can compete, the better it is for everyone. But we've seen Formal and Crimsix and Karma and Scump and all these guys, those are the top 4 out of the top 5 players ever, retire over the last few years. Clay is next up. I mean, if you look at the top 10, at least in my list, you know, you've got Jacob on there, you've got Aches on there, and those guys have gone as well. Clay is the only player, in my opinion, of the, top 7, top 8 of all time that's still competing. It's only a matter of time until that comes to an end, unfortunately. But it definitely seems like he wants to stick around. Just before we close out here, I wanted to mention this from Brian's stats. There's no player ever that has recorded the highest KD twice in a COD Champs Grand Finals. So we've seen Parasite, we've seen Aches, Attach, Slasher, Karma Assault, Octane, Shotzzy, Cell, and aBeZy. There are a few options to go back to back here, right? Attach is at this event, Slash is at this event, Assault's not here, but Octane, Shotzzy, Cell, and aBeZy all are. So there's 6 players that are at this event that could well be in the finals, that could post the highest KD, and it'd be quite the feat to do that for, well, only the second time for any of these guys, and it could well happen very shortly indeed. So very much into your thoughts and all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.